Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Royal Sussex Live. Welcome, one and all. Thank you so much for being here. Um, you guys, I try to be as thorough as possible. So it's like every time I pull on one thread, I just found something else. But then I started seeing parallels, and um, and then I started thinking about people who they will protect and who they won't protect, whose mental health is of grave concern, and who they really just don't give a damn about. That's what it really comes down to is what is your value and worth to the lynch mob known as the tabloid media. And when I say tabloid media, I pretty much mean most of the British media and pretty much a big portion of the American media. Anything owned by Murdoch, anything owned by the Sinclair Group. So, really, the majority of American media, it's gotten to that point. Um, and then, of course, there's that shadowy figure that owns the Hollywood Reporter and Variety. And, he doesn't like to have his photo taken, but yet he wields so much power. And he doesn't really want to be recognized for whatever reason. And I could dig that. I mean, any of these companies, any of these media groups can ruin a life. And as we can see from today's news or yesterday's news, it can even be argued that they can take a life, which is pretty tragic and frightening. Um, Noluthando Niandini, thank you so much for being here first. And I'll just skip the hellos and go straight to it. Hi, Church Nelly, Hazel Jones. So, prayers and prayers and more prayers for this young man and anyone who in his life who have known and loved him, because this had to be that tragedy that you just don't want to believe is possible, but he was under an enormous amount of pressure, and of course the police are still investigating. So, um, but I can assume that we all kind of know what happened. Um, but as for Professor Arday, for let's just talk a little bit about who he was, and and then we'll go on to some things related to that. But yeah, wow, that was a shock. That was a shock, and honestly, trying to get to know more about him before I even spoke about him in further detail. So it says here he was born in London in 1985, and well, and he passed away August the 14th, 2026. Yeah. It doesn't list his date of birth. It just says 1985 here. So, May the 9th. May the 9th. So he was 41 years old. So, Jason Attaqui Arday was a British academic and author. He was a professor of sociology at the University of Cambridge from 2023 to 2026. Arday resigned following a widely publicized allegations of plagiarism and falsified parts of his research, as well as claims of fabrication in his one more time, autobiographical accounts. He was found dead at his home on the 14th of August, which of course was yesterday, 2026, 9 days after his resignation. After receiving a PhD from Liverpool John Moores University in 2015, Arday taught physical education at Leeds Beckett and Roehampton before teaching sociology at Durham and Glasgow, where he became a professor in 2022. And from 2018, he contributed publications that focused on race and racism in the British education sector, and wrote autonographic reflections about his life as a neurodivergent Black academic. Neurodivergent. And I think that is something that, let's see, and just so you know what that means, neurodivergency paradigm is a framework for understanding human brain function that considers the diversity within sensory processing, motor abilities, social comfort, cognition, and focus on neurobiological differences. This diversity falls on a spectrum of neurocognitive differences. So that is a lot. That is a lot. I feel like I need to go and check the meaning of every one of those words, but I think the long and the short of it is that this young man obviously had a brilliant mind, and one of the things that was held against him was not so much um, whether or not he was an intelligent person, although that was the point of it, was to challenge him for that. But some people just didn't like the way his thought processes worked. Um, there's a lot of bias in education, and there's a lot of racism in education. And the higher you go, the more people are determined to put you in your place, so to speak. And so there's been a trend as of late to go after um, people of African descent in institutions of higher learning, especially if they question race. That seems to be one of those things where I guess they're, as we are in a cultural war, they are trying to suppress certain language. I guess the attempt to re-educate society, to dumb us down, to prevent us from being brave enough to speak about things that we are uncomfortable with, even if it's our own life experience. They just do not want you to talk about it. So, anyway, that's a little bit about his life. Now, I haven't had a chance to verify these, so um, I usually like to go through and check these individually because people could put anything on the internet. But it is said that in the past, has it been 8 days? In the past 8 days, that everything that you see here is an yet another article after another article after another article in the Spectator alone. This is just the Spectator, which I do believe is a conservative magazine. Professor Arday is the gift that keeps on giving. Why progressives are desperate to believe Jason Arday. The Jason Arday debacle is becoming a national scandal. Jason Arday quits Cambridge. Finally, fact check the many claims of Jason Arday. God help him if he had to get up every day and look at this stuff. How many Black Lives Matter created Jason Arday? Why my father would have seen through Arday's nonsense. Sociology is about much more than fools like Jason Arday. Should the police investigate Jason Arday? Jason Arday and the Duke and Dolphins of DEI. Meet Jason Arday's Cambridge colleague, Farah Ahmed. Does that mean they're after her too? And Jason Arday found dead at Battersea Address. So, what do they follow up with next? And by the way, this may be triggering for some people. And if that is the case, don't feel a need to suffer through this if you're feeling uncomfortable, if this is causing you despair, because as much as we want to gain an understanding as to what happened and why, we also have to protect our own mental health. So you don't just have to be here. But I appreciate those of you who are, but you should always consider your mental health and well-being first, because that is the most important thing that will get you through one day to the next, is that mentally and physically you're in an ideal position. So this is not an easy topic, and I recognize that. But some people will be looking for understanding or even closure. But whatever your reason for being here, I do appreciate it, and I hope that this is not going to cause you any distress. As you know, I myself am in therapy, and I do not miss a session, and I feel like I am like really I'm talking about things that I wasn't sure that I ever would, but I still have a lot of work to do, so much work to do. So I feel blessed that I found just the right therapist. Hi, Janice Goodrich, Legs, Velton LaShawn, Empress Energy for Life. And Church Nelly, thank you for being here. Now, this one is, I grabbed this and the one before. I grabbed this literally just before I came on. Oh my goodness, this is so small, I can't even see it. But it says here, this is the coverage of Arday just in the Telegraph in the UK. This is only the first 4 pages of results, just in one outlet. Just in one outlet. It's incredible. It's breathtaking that so much content can seemingly appear overnight. Now, I don't know what the range of time is for what we're looking at right here, but I don't think I've had that much to say in a lifetime, let alone about someone else's life. The British media will not accept accountability, but it is now accepted behavioral, probably patting themselves on the back. I'm sure of that. I'm so sure of that. Yeah, I'm sure they got their cigars out. So Amanda played tell on the 8th of August. I want you to notice that it does say the 8th of August, and they even update it. But it says here, why Jason Arday's story reminds me so much of Meghan's. Why? Was Meghan a college professor? Has Meghan authored a book? Oh, I think there was an occasion when um, Jason Arday guest edited a magazine, maybe once or twice. I don't recall how many times. But what, play tale, do they have in common? Because their careers took them in very different directions. Very different directions. Now, at some point in her column, she did use the term narcissist. That's the catch all phrase nowadays, narcissist, which pretty much means anyone who disagrees with us or we disagree with them. If anyone wants to make the world a better place, if anyone wants to improve the quality of another person's life, then they must be a narcissist. Social understanding, narcissist. Left leaning, narcissist. It's a catch all. It's a one size fit all phrase that says, I don't like that person. I think they're a troublemaker, narcissist. So, anyway, the article it does not really um, say anything, but it doesn't really say anything. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. I'm not even going to share it with you. It does not make a point at all. Okay, I give you the first line. When I first read Jason Arday's amazing life story, I had a strange sense of deja vu. So, any experience that Meghan has spoke about from her youth, any struggles, any I guess questions about self-identity, where do I fit in this world? Any of those things. No matter how vague, no matter how different their life experiences have been, the need to turn them into everything that is wrong with Britain is what makes them so much alike. And also, this need for them to validate their life experience and this perpetual question of their legitimacy. That is one of the major components of the takedown of any public figure that is of African descent is we must delegitimize them. We must question their talents and ability, their education. Everything is suspect. Everything. We have to scrutinize and suspect investigate every detail of their lives and make them explain it. The President of the United States, Barack Obama, like a fugitive slave, he had to show his papers. Do you understand what that means? He had to show his papers. That means he had to do something that every white president before or since never had to do. And that is, he had to show his birth certificate so that he could prove once and for all that he was a legitimate American. Now, there were a lot of people who wept that day because it doesn't seem like a big deal to anyone who hates Barack Obama. Well, it's just like they say, if they would have just done what the police said, they would be alive today. Well, if he would just show us his birth certificate, then we wouldn't question these things. Did that work? Certainly not. Certainly not. Let's count the days until the next president of the United States is required to show proof of residency, to show proof of a naturalized birth. Is it naturalized? No, naturalized, I believe, is when you become a citizen. But that he was born in the USA. Stay away from Britain, Meghan. You're not welcome here. Oh, yeah, that Amanda Playtell. That Amanda Playtell. These headlines are billboards. Even though they are small, they are billboards. Even though they are electronic, they are created electronically. They are billboards. A newspaper at the supermarket, even if you don't buy it, they are billboards. They are there to shape the way you think. Now, I hate to say that because it just really takes all of the responsibility away from the haters. But I believe Nelson Mandela said that hate is a learned behavior, that no one is born to hate. But hate becomes some people's religion, and they practice it every day. Jason Arday, former Cambridge University professor, found dead after resigning following plagiarism row. Now, I'm going to play a few things for you. And as per usual, we are going to talk about it on the other side. You could say I actually curated a bit of a playlist that I thought would be helpful. So let me get this queued up, and then we'll take it from there. You probably recognize this journalist, but I'll let him do the talking. Uh-oh, let me see here.
Like a truck when I saw this news pop up on my phone.
Sorry about that. Let me start it from the very beginning.
And now he's dead. He's dead. He's just been found dead. This hit me like a truck when I saw this news pop up on my phone. He's dead now. It hit me for a number of reasons. One, there was an element of guilt because I haven't spoken about this. I've shared other people's stuff, but haven't directly spoken about it because I didn't know the facts. Because by definition, the first inquiry that Cambridge did cleared him of plagiarism, and the second one's still ongoing. So don't know the facts.
Let me play that for you one more time. I just want to make sure that everybody heard that.
But haven't directly spoken about it because I didn't know the facts. Because by definition, the first inquiry that Cambridge did cleared him of plagiarism, and the second one's still ongoing. So don't know the facts. And I like to know the facts before I speak. But the one thing that I knew was true was the disproportionate level of backlash that he received, that Jason Arday received in the press over the accusations of plagiarism as a professor at Cambridge. So I knew that that was wrong. Similarly to like how the Meghan Markle stuff was wrong. You know, like how the Daily Mail and the Express would publish the exact same stories about Princess Kate, having avocados as like a pregnancy treat, and they praise it when Princess Kate did it, but when Kate Middleton did it, and then when Meghan Markle did it, they'd be like, "Oh, the avocados are linked to drought and murder." It's just that disproportionate level of hate that Black prominent people get compared to their white counterparts. And ironically, I'm going to plagiarize here and use Jupiter Ball, is how you know him, my friend Helio. He made a video, which I actually accepted the collab on barely half an hour ago, where he named all of the white professors, a bunch of them, and academics who still are gainfully employed in academia, who've all been found to have committed plagiarism, and yet you don't know their names.
William O'Reilly, Anna Laura Wainwright, David Latchman, Ross Holmes, Fiona Leal, Nicola Morrison, Neil Wynne.
So while I don't know the nature of how he died, the likelihood that his death is unrelated to the fact his recent resignation is very, very low. And if it is in any way linked, racism killed Jason Arday. And that's why a lot of Black people who are in some way prominent are feeling they are coming for all of us, because they don't want Black people to have influence in this country. To his family, to his loved ones.
Okay, thank you. I believe his name is Spimmy. I see him all the time, and I do apologize. I don't think I've ever known his name, but they're coming for us. Did you hear that last part? They're coming for us, and it hasn't just started. They've been working on this for a while. All it has taken was a presence in the White House, a presence in most of Western Europe. That's all it's taken, was the presence of people who seem to believe that people of color are inferior, that they are going to somehow contaminate the gene pool. And how did they say it about the Americans? The British during World War II, they say the three things I hate about Americans: overpaid, oversexed, and over here. I wonder what the three things about people of African descent. Now, I have to say this again. This, of course, is not most of society. This isn't most of white society. This is the very vocal minority on either side of the Atlantic in Australia, in New Zealand, any place where there has been colonization for sure, that continued fear of others. It is a very present and real thing, is a constant fear of others, a fear of change. And I get it. I get it. I totally understand whether there's a um, a legitimate fear or if it's just something driven by the media or by politicians. Politicians love to make people hate because hate brings people together. Not everybody, but a select few here, a select few there. It brings people together. And that's what politicians have been doing for a long time. And I have to tell you that there's one country in particular that is so adept at turning one person against another, and that is the United Kingdom. That is Britain. That is the one of the greatest exports in the history of the world has been racism, achieved through a combination of guns, religion, which of course means bringing the Bible with you, and of course, trash science, a science that taught people to hate themselves, a science that helps people believe that the darker you are, the less worthy you are. That you're evil and lazy. You're some type of usurper trying to claim something that is not legitimately yours. That is the underpinning of these messages. Um, those columns are dripping with disdain. And that's what's so clever is that they are using their quality education, even if they too are guilty of plagiarizing. They're using their quality education, their elegant words, their ability to structure a sentence. They're using that as a means of having authority over someone like myself who has yet to master the Queen's English or the King's English. Um, so that means that I'm unaware. I'm uneducated. I don't have good sense of wisdom. But I should show deference and belief in everything that comes out of, let's say, the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Mirror, the New York Post, Page Six. So, plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Some of us don't know. Let's take the exact definition. Plagiarism is the act of taking someone else's words, ideas, images, or creative work and using them as your own without giving credit to the original creator. It is a form of academic dishonesty and intellectual theft. Well, if that doesn't sound like something that demands capital punishment, I can't think of anything that does. I'm being sarcastic, of course. That is pretty serious. That is pretty serious. Um, you guys know I talk a lot, a lot. In my private life, away from the microphone, I talk. I say a lot of things. And to the best of my ability, I try to give credit to the actual originator, even though they probably got it from someone else. And how many times have I tuned into someone's channel and heard my own words being fed right back to me? And sometimes they give me credit, sometimes they don't. But it's really no big deal. Is the information correct? Now, yes, there should be limitations on that. We shouldn't have the ability to go around and take someone else's work and use it as our own without giving credit. Sometimes it's just an oversight, and sometimes um, we repeat things to people without even having the most basic awareness that, oh, that came from so and so. Or we just don't care. But as human beings, we're all mimics. But if you're doing a doctoral thesis, then surely um, one should expect one should expect that you're going to do the work yourself. Now, I'm not sure what neurodivergent really means. I'm not sure how that affects the way a person thinks. I don't know how it affects their analytical skills. But I have been in the company of people who almost word for word can mimic someone else's ideas. And I'm not even sure they're aware of it. So listen, I'm not making any excuses, but it's certainly not worth someone's life. It's certainly not worth someone's life, especially if we know for certain that there are entire faculties where a certain percentage of the professors have plagiarized someone in their career. And yet they are still working. Just like myself, as an African American, I grew up in a country where, after years of Jim Crow, years of the civil rights movement, if I have been mistreated by a white person, there was an excellent chance that I could take that person to court. I could receive compensation, as opposed to the good old days when it was just, they almost kind of like in that country we dare not speak of, the size of New Jersey. You know how they go and take someone's house without asking for it? Kind of like that. We have moved beyond that here in the United States. But the problem is, there are people trying to move us back to that place again, where I don't have equal protection under the law. Some people would call that Jim Crow, and some people would call that, what do you call it? Apartheid. Jim Crow, apartheid, kind of in the same family, isn't it? You don't have equal protection under the law. But in spite of that, in spite of where we were back in the 1950s, did a white president not take the word of the United States Supreme Court and integrate the schools when he was instructed by law to do so? Yes, he did. There's so many things that are progress, but yet people are trying to unlearn the behavior of equal protection for every citizen. But as is it Femi, as he just said, They're coming for all of us. So today, it is Hispanics, Latino, Spanish people, Spanish speaking Americans, Americans of South Central, of Central American, Latin American descent. Today, it's them. It's always been black people. Let's just get that straight. But even black people are calling ICE. So I would say right now that people are dumping all over the Latin community, which breaks my heart seeing someone black say, I'm going to call, I'm going to call. That breaks my heart when I see that. But listen, I don't want to stray too far. But my point is that there is a shadowy network of people, whether it's the Heritage Foundation, that Heritage, is it the Heritage Foundation or Heritage Group? You know, the ones that are trying to expose Prince Harry. Why? Because he's married to a black woman, a biracial woman, a woman of African descent. However you want to slice it, that presence of African blood is the problem. They're not just going after Harry. It's never just been about him. Whew. Well, this young lady is a member of parliament, right? Anyway, let me just play it. Let me just play it.
Morrison, Fiona, I want to read it to you because I'm going to give you some names. William O'Reilly, Ross Holmes, David Latchman, Nicola Morrison, Fiona Leal, Anna Lorna Wainwright. These are all people that have actually proven to have been plagiarists, or people that have manipulated the data, and people that have been proven to have lifted whole pages from students' papers or published work that they had to withdraw. Unlike Jason, who was exonerated by Cambridge, and the only reason why he was being put through another investigation is because of this media witch hunt. And the extent to which this media witch hunt was cruel is because it didn't aim to just target him. It aimed to target anybody that supported him, trying to isolate him as much as possible, going after people who had signed up to statements. That is how cruel and unrelenting it was to turn his institution against him and to attempt to turn colleagues against him as well. And the thing is, there should be a reckoning from the media, but there isn't going to be, because now you've just got more things to comment on.
You know what? You know what? Just as she was talking just now, just as I listened to her, I may owe Amanda Playtell an apology, because I just had a deja vu. Seriously, I just had a deja vu. When she said how they are going after people that have been supportive, including the institution. It's kind of like when the derangers, when they vow to boycott a streaming service because they don't like two of the people that are under contract with said streaming service. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a parallel right there. So I may owe Amanda Playtell an apology, even though we kind of got there for different reasons. Hers based on racial intolerance, I suspect, and me just common sense. But we still got to the same place, just for different reasons. So yeah, we both had deja vu. I had deja vu. Amanda Playtell has had deja vu, but for very different reasons. Interesting how life works, isn't it? I mean, just when you think you've got it figured out, then something like that happens. Let's see. You know what? Let me go back here again. Oh, is that David Foster? Someone who invited the Sussexes to attend a gathering. Sorry about these other things. And then, of course, they said that he snubbed Meghan. Now, I just established yesterday that on the 8th of August, it may have been or it may not have been, but a very prominent social media presence, very prominent as far as, the Harry and Meghan circles are, made the accusation. Now, I'm not saying it originated with her, but it very well may have been her, who said on the 8th of August that Meghan was just a little bit too aggressive with someone who has a seething hatred for her, that he only tolerates her so that he can be near Harry. Is this making sense to you guys? Because I don't want to stray too far, or I hope I'm explaining this properly, how there's a connection. It's always something. It's always something. They will find the most ridiculous thing. They find that little thread and then they pull upon it. And if the whole garment doesn't come apart, well, then they'll just start breaking the seams, I guess. If pulling on that thread does not undo the garment, then they will just start yanking on it until all the seams are broken. But either way, they're going to get there. They are going to prove, without a doubt, that there is no legitimate reason why Meghan are in these spaces. It doesn't matter how hard she's worked. It doesn't matter how she has lived her life. Her morality doesn't matter. None of those things matter. What matters is that woman of African descent is in that space, and she just doesn't know her place in this world. She doesn't show deference to the right people. She's unfazed by musty old castles. It just does not seem to make her giddy. And therefore, we must expose her. Interesting how that comes together. Now, let's speak about Meghan's background. Northwestern University. A degree, Bachelor's of Arts from the School of Communication, completed in 2003. Double major, theater and international studies. Often referenced as international relations. Extracurricular, member of the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority. International experience, completed a study abroad in Spain and a high-profile internship in the U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Now, that right there, I believe I don't want to say the name because I'm not sure for certain, but one of the henchmen at the Daily Mail wrote an article trying to prove in some way that Meghan was either not worthy of her post or that she did not complete her studies. It was something. It was something. But it was a big question mark over her experience in Argentina. And of course, that gave a great deal of material for the derangers. And of course, the occasional media type person. But primary and secondary education, Immaculate Heart High School, where she met Catherine McPhee, and in all girls Catholic private school in Los Angeles, graduated in 1999. Elementary school, the Little Red Schoolhouse. I think that's very famous. Early acting career, theater degree prepared her for Hollywood, question mark. Her humanitarian work and how her international studies background tied into her later roles. Anyway, that seems like just the type of person who would make a fantastic duchess, a princess of the realm. But she don't quite look white enough, does she? Oh, and then there's her mom with her dreadlocks and nose ring. Yeah, they're not like us. They won't fit in here. So, yeah, obviously it's not going to work out. So, nothing to do but to prove to the world that she is above herself, above her station, and that she does not belong here. We have to save those places for the English rose, which is code for, yes, you know. Now, here's another one that they've targeted. A forced, the forces behind Harvard President Claudine Gay's resignation. Gay will continue to work as a professor at the university. And then somewhere I skipped down to this, it says Gay as a symbol of DEI in higher ed. Gay entered the role at a tumultuous time. Harvard was under a spotlight for its affirmative action policy that allowed race to be used as one of the factors in admission processes, aimed at addressing racial inequities in access to higher education. So, better to go after her and question her legitimacy, and let's just ignore all of the rich kids that are allowed into Harvard every year because their parents went to Harvard. We're going to forget about that. That seems to be something that would have worked in her favor. But I suspect her mother didn't go to Harvard. At least I don't think so. But that is one way to get into those famous institutions. All you have to do is have a parent. Or you can have a parent that's capable of building a gymnasium, building dormitories, building a new library. Those are ways to get your kids into those schools. She officially took over the position in July of 2023, just days after the Supreme Court set limits on affirmative action at universities. The decision came amid conservative attacks on diversity initiatives, or DEI, in higher education. Why would they do that? Well, it's those same dark forces that targeted over 300,000 well-educated, well-paid Black women who worked in the federal government, whose positions were made redundant, seemingly overnight. And why did that happen? For the same reason that all of the high-ranking Black commanding officers in the military, including Charles Brown, who was, I believe, only the second uh, African American to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now that's progress, right? Well, apparently not, because without ceremony, without explanation, he was removed. And just so you know, yes, a president has a right to remove people, but traditionally, someone in that position, you just don't touch it. When that person retires, or if that person has made a huge mistake, then they themselves will resign. But in this instance, without ceremony, without explanation, he was just unceremoniously removed from his position, a position that this four-star general worked a lifetime to achieve. And he wasn't the only one. So, academics, yes, they're coming after us in academics. Military, yes, they're coming after us in the military. And of course, needless to say, within the royal families, within an ancient, inadequate institution like the British royal family, yeah, you bet your bottom dollar they're coming after us. There is a pattern, a pattern. And so, unfortunately for Claudine Gay, she is just more collateral damage on the road to cleansing all of these institutions, especially of anyone who speaks out about race. They got to go. You see, there's the notion that these institutions are becoming too woke. And trust me when I say this, that the dark forces, they'd rather shut down the universities than to have someone like Claudine Gay or Jason Arday or anyone else that they find disagreeable. They'd rather shut it down. It is it is a rather a messy business, but that seems to be the business model right now, is to target certain people, especially if they are saying things that make other people uncomfortable. If you make them uncomfortable, then you got to go. You simply have to go, and they will find a way to do it. And I actually saw in one of the comments they said, "Well, what triggered the attack on Jason Arday?" That's a good question. Now, I saw the person who um, is responsible for running Professor Arday's. What they did was they put uh, his work through a software that is designed to weed out anything that seems to be someone else's work. Now, I don't know if it's word for word or if it's just a pattern of, information that they target. But if you are taking basic information and you're coming up with the same conclusion, but with different words, is that plagiarism? I can't be sure because I don't know what the software looks like. I don't know exactly what does the software search for. But it was that software. I wonder how many people are college professors that would survive that very same scrutiny. I mean, we've had where is she at? This lady right here. I apologize, I don't know her name, but we've had her um, just out a bunch of people who were accused of plagiarism, but they got to keep their jobs. They got to keep their jobs. They were not forced to resign. And they certainly was not subject to days and days and days of repeated journalistic brutality. Um, have I been threatened? No, I don't think so. I mean, I've had a couple of people say some weird, dodgy things in the comment, but um, I think I've had someone a long time ago that I don't remember what it was, but basically they were wishing the same thing happened to me that happened to someone else. And oh, here's one. When I was in the hospital that time, and I looked through the comments, whoever this person was, of course, I blocked them. They said, I don't know what you were in the hospital for, but I pray you have a relapse. I'm like, charmed, charmed. uh, well, here's the thing. But thank you for asking. But there is the great thing about the Sussex squad is that there are no leaders, right? And there really is a measure of safety in numbers. It's one thing if you're the only one that are approaching certain subjects, and it means a whole nother thing if it is something that is common. So, one of the examples I can give, of course, is Jeffrey Epstein. The first time I did anything about that, they wouldn't monetize the video. They just wouldn't monetize it. They were, and when I say they, whoever's responsible for that within, the platform, they were terrified because they did not know what was too much to say, right? And of course, they don't want to get sued or anything like that. So now you could actually say the word. You could say his name. And I see a lot of people fumble over things like if someone has, been the victim of a particular assault, they change the first letter of the word. I think given the context, if you just say, this young lady has been assaulted, I'm pretty sure most people know what that means, right? Um, Again, the context matters. But there are still certain times where you're not able to say certain things. And sometimes it's a bit of trial and error. But now that so much time has gone by and so many people are talking about the whole thing, that now we can talk about it and not worry about being demonetized, right? But still, you have to be very careful because there are those people out there that will flag your account even though you've done nothing wrong. And it's not going to necessarily cost you your platform, but it is an inconvenience because then you have to go through the whole review process, especially if you still feel as though you're innocent and you want your video to have the monetization it deserves. So some of you all may remember I was in mid conversation dragging those royal reporters and someone, probably a gang of people. They began to flag my account. And in the middle of the podcast, I'm like, can you guys hear me? There was no connection. They had pulled the plug on me. And so I was not worried. At that point, I'm sure I hadn't said anything that I hadn't said before. So instead of getting all nervous, you know what I did? I went to Target. I went shopping. I'm like, F this, I'm going to the store. And then the next day, I did receive a letter via email, but I received a letter apologizing for the misunderstanding. They found no wrongdoing. So there is an art to saying enough and too much. And then also, we always want to take certain precautions because you never know. Um, I know that Michelle had, I think someone had took a picture of her house or something like that and sent it to her. That would be very jarring, and it does happen. But so far, um, you know, all I got to say is, um, yeah, come to my neighborhood. Come to my neighborhood. I dare you. I double dare you. Come to this neighborhood and make sure you knock on the right door. Because if you knock on the wrong door, what's that term they use? Swiss cheese. Yeah, you. I live in one of those neighborhoods where you just don't want to. You don't want to make trouble. That's all I can say. Is I live in one of those neighborhoods where uh, trouble may find you before you can make trouble. So, um, okay. So yeah. But anyway, thank you for asking. The question is that if it was his thesis, then why was an investigation done at his current work? If anything, it should have been his alma mater institution where he received his PhD. Well, thank you for that, Legs. The wheel bots are very active. Yeah, there are bots. We know that there are bots, but then there's also some of the derangers that do copy and paste. They will copy something from another platform and then paste it in the comment section. So what appears to be another round of bots may also be a copy and paste. And I've actually had the experience of having that happen during on my Facebook years ago during the presidential election, where I would copy and paste, other people would copy and paste, and I mean we were going to battle, and so there's a lot of that happens too. But yeah, bots are one thing, copy and paste is another, but the whole point is to spread information or misinformation, to taint the waters, as they say, to poison the well. Oh, what did I say? Calling improper citation plagiarism is the same as saying you are stealing um, if you eat a grape to check their freshness. Okay. Oh, over 600,000 Black women have lost their jobs after 2025. Black people are under attack. I am praying for that young man and his family. I'm sorry, he was targeted. Thank you for that, Jessica. Okay. Thank you, Mary H. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you feel better. Often, when a Black academic rises too high, they get hit with a suspicious plagiarism charge, which, true or not, often ruins their career. like Claudine Gay, the first Black woman president of Harvard. Oh, yeah. You know what? I did not do anything about her background, did I? I should do that. So let me make sure I get that right. Because we deserve to know what her credentials are. Thank you so much for reminding me. Is it SKT first? Is that like abbreviated skirt? Skirt? Is that what that spells? Skirt? Okay. Not funny. Not funny. All right. Let me get this up here. It says Claudine Gay, born August 4th, 1970. Ooh, does she share a birthday with Meghan? August 4th? So Meghan, Barack Obama, Claudine Gay, and who was that old drunkard that lived to 101? There was some old lush that lived to be 101. I think her birthday was on the 4th of August. Anyway, I can't remember. But yeah, they said that she had drank so much that they were afraid to light candles at her funeral. That one. uh, anyway, listen, I can only be serious for so long. But yeah, so let's get back to her credentials. They was afraid to light candles. Claudine Gay, born August the 4th, 1970, is an American political scientist who is the Wilbur A. Cowett Professor of Government and African American Studies at Harvard University. Her research focuses on American political behavior, including voter turnout and politics of race and identity. Gay served as the Dean of Social Science at Harvard from 2015 to 2018, as the Dean of the Harvard Faculty of Arts and Science from 2018 to 2023, and as of the 30th, and as the 30th president of Harvard University from July 2023 to January of 2024. In December of 2023, Gay and two other university presidents faced pressure from the public and from the Congressional Committee to resign over responses to instances of anti-Semitic violence on campus. Amid this pressure campaign, Gay was accused of plagiarism in academic publications. Although the allegations have been contested, in January 2024, she resigned from the presidency. Now, how did her response to instances of anti-Semitic violence on campus, which I'm sure she did not participate, but apparently because she wasn't, I guess, responding in a way that some people preferred, right? Then they started going after her academic history. They decided to accuse her of plagiarism. See how that works? She was discredited as a direct result of violence on the campus of the university. Now, as we have learned over the years, especially during the Vietnam War, when the young people are at odds with certain sectors of society and or the government, that they respond with protest, sit-ins. They refuse to go to class. They have ways to deal with things that they don't like. And so, because of what's going on in a country the size of New Jersey, we dare not speak of, well, over the past few years, there has been the threat to withhold funding for these universities. If you go through these universities, you'll find that a lot of very wealthy people have contributed to libraries, um, classrooms, park, uh, all kinds of stuff to deal with the university. And with the threat of withholding that funding, of course, the university board, they have a little conversation like, you know what? Um, you're bringing a lot of heat to this school. Maybe you should resign. I mean, we support you spiritually, but officially, we must take a stance. And so that's how she ended up resigning. Anyway, that's my best interpretation, is that it was one of those things where so much heat had been brought upon the institution that there's really no way for you to do your job effectively if they're questioning your credentials and if people are threatening to withhold funding. Anyway, that's the simple answer. And Legs, you're absolutely right. With we saw that what they did to Vanessa Williams. Yeah, they did a job on the first Black Miss America. Someone who, once again, was in one of those spaces where she wasn't exactly welcomed. And of course, the next time Miss America came around, they decided to go with a blonde, blue-eyed Mormon who, believe it or not, played the harp. Like an angel, she played the harp. Not the harpsichord, an actual harp. Yeah, that was the next Miss America. Now, I said that before, and then someone, what about Suzette Charles? Well, yes, Suzette Charles finished the reign for Vanessa Williams. I know this. I'm old. I remember that we had not one, but two Black Miss Americas. And I don't want to take anything away from Suzette Charles, but, you know, she was a runner-up, first runner-up. Anyway, let me take that away and go here. Oh my goodness, have I been on for over an hour already? Undergraduate. Barack Obama attended Occidental College in California for 2 years before transferring to Columbia University in New York City, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science in 1983. Law school, he earned his Juris Doctor Magnum Cum Laude from Harvard Law School in 1991 and served as the first Black president of the Harvard Law Review, a very prestigious post. Academic career, he later worked as a constitutional law lecturer and senior lecturer at the University of Chicago Law School in 1992 to 2004. And just so you know, there's always been this heated competition between Stanford and the University of Chicago. They've always kind of had very similar, you know. Anyway, but if I'm correct, I believe more Nobel Peace Prize laureates come from the University of Chicago than any other institution of higher learning. Somebody check that, but I believe that is still accurate. Okay. So yeah, with all of that, with all of those credentials, not to mention President of the United States Senator, a state senator. He served as a senator in the state of Illinois. And then he went on to become a United States senator and eventually president of the United States. And of course, let's not forget community organizer. So he was up to his ears in politics. And in spite of that, there are still people that even voted for him, that question his legitimacy because a white man, a rich white man at that, for 5 years repeated over and over and over again that he was not a legitimate American, that he was not born in the United States. And of course, people began to doubt. And so, in a last ditch effort to prove that he was a legitimate president of the United States, I mean, there was no chance that he would be removed from office or anything, but the person who said it had political ambitions of their own. As a matter of fact, something slipped past on election day. What was it? 2016, was it? Election day 2016. Donald Trump said that Barack Obama was born in the United States and that he was an American citizen, period. And why did he do that? Never to repeat it again. Why did he do that? Because it was election day and he wanted to make sure that if there were any holdouts, if there was anyone who refused to vote for him based on that one detail, that the next 24-hour news cycle would repeat that to the people that needed to hear it, who needed to hear it from him, so that I'm not even going to say when, so that he can become president. Connie Balmer. Hey, Connie Balmer. Oh, I see Sandra is here. Now, it all sounds a bit misogynistic. One of the squatties posted this video, and as a Black person, this is yet another one of those situations where I see people who look nothing like me sitting in judgment of another Black person. I mean, this isn't a court of law, but even if it was, that certainly is not a jury of my peers. They have nothing in common with the Duchess of Sussex, but yet they proudly go after her week after week after week, day by day, in the same spirit that they have gone after Jason Day. It's breathtaking, really. And what's even worse is that on occasion, I find that there are Black people that believe everything they say. They cling to their every word. Well, she should have known what she was getting into. Okay, coming up.
thought that he's lacking a group of mates there that he can go and have a beer with. I think if he had a group of 4 or 5.
Oh, let me set this up for you first. Once again, these people are worried about Prince Harry. They don't think that Prince Harry has any independence, right? Now, we know that Prince Harry has quite often traveled by himself. We know that Prince Harry has spent time with all kind of people in the Santa Barbara area, all up and down the coast of California. Meghan and Harry do a lot of things without each other. I know it, you know it, but listen to this. Listen to this exchange.
I've always thought that he's lacking a group of mates there that he can go and have a beer with. I think if he had a group of 4 or 5 friends like he used to have in London, that, you know, ex-army guys or whatever, that he could let his hair down and have a few beers and go to a hockey match or what do they do out there, you know, a basketball game, as opposed to going with her, you know, actually have a group of male friends. I mean, it sort of sounds a bit misogynistic, but, you know, I think it would do him good. And I think it would, you know, he could let off some steam. And I'm not saying he should get drunk and start falling out in nightclubs and punching photographers, but if he could actually go out and, you know, let his hair down, have a few drinks, enjoy himself and talk to his mates, I think that would be a good thing. And I don't get the impression that happens.
I agree. And also, not only his mates, his family. And you just think how close he was, you know, with his brother, people like Mike Tyndall. You know, there's all those reporting after Zara and Mike's wedding, which they all went and, you know, got plastered, you know, at the wedding reception. You know, there was a group of sort of mates there in the family that they could all let their hair down and have that sort of lived and shared experience, which, you know, we don't really understand because we're not members of the royal family.
And because you're not members of the royal family, but I do think you understand that nobody in that family is that close. None of them. How often do you see members of that family hanging out together? Beatrice and Eugenie, I'll say they seem to be rather close like that, but not Pippa and Kitty. I just, it doesn't seem to happen. It seems like they have all grown up, that they have started families, and they have moved on. Harry needs to go out and have a beer with his mates. So when Harry goes to the Super Bowl, or if Harry goes to dinner or something like that, or if Meghan goes to dinner without Harry, where's Meghan? Sitting in the car? Seated at another table? Or is she just nowhere around? She's with the kids. Harry does plenty things. He goes to the gym. And I can only imagine everything that happens, but if they want to spend most of their time together, what of it? What of it? If they want to watch their children grow together, what of it? That fake, false, made up concern about Harry's well-being. If they're so concerned about Harry's well-being, leave him the F alone. Leave him alone. He is a grown adult man who's made his choices. And for that reason, he's a homeowner in the state of California, in Santa Barbara County, in the town of Montecito. He's not at the whim of having to move because he called out his father's wife for being a monster, or called out his brother for attacking him, physically attacking him, or called out his father for using him as a means to rebuild his reputation. That's why he's in California. No, let me take that back. It was when they began to go after his wife. That's why he's in California. When it was made very clear that he was not entitled to happiness, that whatever service he has given to his country, whether in the military or as a diplomat, it was never going to be enough. Your wife is not welcome. Your son was compared to a chimpanzee, and there were no consequences. But for that, just so that Harry can have a beer with his mates, they would rather he stay there and suffer the indignities of having his father and his brother and his stepmother and probably his manipulating sister-in-law, having those people ruin his life, make sure that he's a bachelor forever, using him the way they used Margaret as the cautionary tale, or using him to give purpose to his brother. Isn't that what they did to Margaret? Margaret was depicted as helpless and unable to walk or talk or think or crap without the input of her sister, Elizabeth. And that is exactly the model that they were going to use for the rest of Harry's life. Harry is not a whole and complete person, but for his brother William, he wouldn't be able to function. That is the narrative. And when Harry pushed back against that narrative, then they attacked him. The people who said he was friendly. He used to get us coffee. We could have a beer with him. Is that what this is about? Because he's not having beer with those people? The woman with the Peg Bundy hairdo? The old nerd with the glasses? And that evil individual, the one who was stalking the Sussexes at the Invictus games? Because he's not having beers with them? There's something wrong with him? It's not what's wrong with him, it's what's right with him. He got enough sense to stay away from all of that. You know, if they used that education, if they used all that education to solve some of the social problems that are happening in Britain, where would they be right now? If they used those educations to actually help the people. Oh, you're going to love this one. You are going to love this one. I got more. Okay. It's going to take me a minute to bring that one up. Oh, not so bad. Okay, here we go.
The way the right wing are obsessed with Meghan Markle is actually unhinged. Like, there needs to be a sociological study done on how she is brought into everything, which is ironic because I'm about to show you a clip that I just watched, so you have to too, about sociology that they somehow bring Meghan Markle into.
Sociology is a bit of a Mickey Mouse subject.
Well, is it? My brother-in-law teaches it.
So that's MP and aristocratic caricature come to life, Jacob Rees-Mogg, speaking to journalist and human embodiment of Can I Speak to Your Manager, Camilla Tominey, on the Telegraph's podcast. Echo chamber, anybody? Now, the context here is the resignation of Professor Jason Arday, who up until recently was a professor in the University of Cambridge. He was really built up on a pedestal as the youngest Black professor ever to be appointed at Cambridge University, and recently has been pulled down from that pedestal, what a surprise, by the right-wing press, following allegations of plagiarism and also allegations that he's lied about a lot of things about his own life story. And that may or may not be true, but the scale at which this has been reported and discussed is ridiculous. Like, no white academic has ever been scrutinized this much. And I can tell you some stories about white academics that are worse than they lied about doing some charity runs. I tell you that for nothing. But I digress, because that is not what struck me particularly about this clip. The conversation actually starts off with Tomini giving a bit of pushback to Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Not a rigorous subject in the same way that the classics are, or history is, or chemistry, or physics, or
Some
mathematics.
people could rightfully ask what the point of studying classics is, to be honest.
Good point, Camilla. I think all of the subjects mentioned in this clip are valid. But how is Jacob going to bring you round to his way of thinking, I wonder?
Well, it's a great understanding of how the past operated.
All right.
And
The
it's
sociologists might argue it's a great way to understand how people operate today.
But I don't think it
Useful.
does that, because it seems to be just a selection of personal opinions and personal feelings.
Jacob Rees-Mogg has obviously never done any particular research into sociology and how rigorous or not rigorous it might be. Just thought I'd say that as an aside.
It seems to have wandered into the My Truth, the Duke and
Yes.
Duchess of Sussex view of the world.
Meghan.
Yes, Meghan. Are you not embarrassed? Like, oh my God, like it's like she's a fucking sleeper cell spy and the word Meghan triggers her like reactionary politics. It's insane. As soon as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are mentioned, she's locked in. She's nodding her little head. Am I a massive fan of Hazza and Meg? Probably not. Do I understand why they don't want to live in or even visit this country? Absolutely. It's unhinged. It's unhinged.
Well, there you go. I told you like that one. Meghan. And that really was her tone, wasn't it? As soon as he said Meghan, as she said, all of a sudden, Camilla Tomini's locked in. Because at some point, they had, in all likelihood, agreed to get to that point anyway, where they would have to compare anything and everything to something to do with Meghan. It's the only way, it is the only way to have a guaranteed audience or audience participation, is to throw Meghan in there. And then you actually have something legitimate to talk about, even if it's no legitimacy to it at all. But every little bit of Meghan reference helps, obviously. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Let's see. Oh, you know what, guys? I'm almost done. I just have this one last thing, and oh no, actually that's wrong. I'm going to get back to that. That is in the wrong place right there. Let me just go ahead and drop down to where I need to be. Amanda Blaytell, if we don't all give Kate a break, she may take a break from us. And then where would the royal family be? After weeks in which Kate has been relentlessly pounded over her Mother's Day mishap, accused of trickery and deception, we are heading into uncharted waters. Are you really? Because that level of unhinged, that level of what is that? Pounding. Isn't that something that the tabloid media has done very well for a long time? Isn't that their superpower? relentlessly going after someone, whether or not they were guilty, right? Is Kate too good for that? Remember when Victoria Newton said, I spoke to Kensington Palace. Matter of fact, I'm going to play this one for you. I am going to play that one for you. Buckle your seatbelt. I'm going to play that one for you. And you can hear the vigor in which they defended Kate Middleton, how they always defend Kate Middleton, because she is an old-fashioned mute woman. She has no opinion. She has no thoughts. She pretty much doesn't do anything for anybody but herself. And so for that reason, she must be protected. On any given day, what does Kate do to make life better for someone else? And please don't say early years. We don't even know what that is. Are you ready for this? Here we go.
This is going to be one of the tallest residential buildings in
the one. God, how do I do this so that it just doesn't start if I don't want
all
it to?
of New York City.
Oh.
This is NYC's 6th tallest tower, but the real engineering is...
You see what I mean? I try to go to it, and it just starts playing whether or not I'm ready for it. I really have got to try to cut that off. You know, it didn't do that until we started having shorts. Okay. Let me get out of that and go to here. What a flipping nuisance. Okay, here we go.
The nonsense that's been written that the marriage must be in trouble because she took her wedding rings off. I mean,
you don't believe,
you've seen the size of that rock. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine she wears that ring most of the time at home, but I just thought that was really unfair and it felt a bit bullying, and that's why I thought we had to make a stand, and I'm glad it's had an impact.
It said people love to put someone on a pedestal and love it even more when they fall off it. Princess Kate so rarely put a foot wrong that when she was forced to confess to some perhaps misguided photo editing, there was a gleeful element to some analysis, and there was also the conspiracy theories that existed before, during, and after the whole episode. She may have apologized, but the whispers and conspiracy theories continue. How will Kensington Palace put the lid back on? Well, one woman I know who has a great deal of experience in royal coverage and in how the palace thinks, the couple thinks, the PR operation works is Victoria Newton, who's editor of The Sun. She joins us now. Morning, Victoria.
Morning.
You think that Kate's had a hard time, she deserves a break?
I certainly do. A couple of days ago, I ran a front page saying lay off Kate, because it felt to me a bit like it was becoming bullying. This is a woman who's had a really, really serious operation, probably far more serious than anybody actually understands.
Oh my God. I don't know if I can get through this. Yeah, there was a Sun newspaper. Lay off Kate. Lay off Kate. Stop bullying over edited pic. It wasn't bullying. It was asking a question. Where is Kate Middleton? That is what they were covering up, is where is Kate Middleton? That was a question. Now, yes, there were some people that made memes and they substituted Bernie Sanders and put Kate Middleton in the picture. Yeah, people had fun with it. But the Sussex squad was actually the only people that thought that, well, that she was, not here anymore. Genuinely concerned, I might add. But the only reason why that photo was a thing, so to speak, is because no one has seen a confirmed anything of Kate Middleton since Christmas. And not only Kate, but the children. There was only one appearance by George. Charlotte and Louis, do you realize that Charlotte and Louis had not been seen from the 28th of December all the way until Trooping the Colors? And I even said at the time of Easter, even if Kate can't go to Easter, then bring the kids out to reassure the public. Did they do that? No. Not George, not Charlotte, not Louis, and certainly not William, because we were to believe that William was, what do you call it, collapsed at her bedside with worry, unable to function because he just didn't know what was going to happen to Kate. Right? That was what we were supposed to believe. So nobody went to Easter in that family. But anyway, I digress. But that's the only reason why that photo became a thing. It wasn't so much the photo, even though they want to make us believe that that was it, that everybody just abruptly picked on Kate Middleton because of a photo. No, people were asking, where is Kate Middleton? No Kate. And then all of a sudden we get the Franken photo, which, by the way, if William would have been man enough to take responsibility for a photo that they claimed he took himself and that Kate edited, if William wouldn't have left his wife to wither on the vine, then there would not have been an issue. It was William who was not man enough to take credit for the photo. No mention of that here, by the way. No mention whatsoever. That was the detail that was abandoned as soon as people started scrutinizing that photo. I forgot who the one person was who said that William was a real punk for not taking responsibility. But aside from that, it really was not about the photo. It was and it wasn't. Don't forget, Baron, they reused pictures of the kids from the year before for their birthday. They made ABC take down the picture from the year before once people. Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that ABC. I didn't know that. Oh, thank you, Legs. Okay, let's finish this one.
Always said she would be out of the public life until Easter. She isn't head of state. It's a bit different to, say, King Charles, who I think we had more right to know more about his illnesses and what went wrong. But I think with Kate, she didn't deserve that. And what happened was these crazy online speculation, both here and in the US, went out of control.
Guilty. I asked a lot of questions. Guilty.
And it seemed that the public were really, really desperate to know what was wrong with her. But I think she had a right to be at home and
guilty. I wanted to know what happened to her.
Great. So that front page sent quite a message because I'd noticed up until that point, the BBC were constantly leading with this. I think for 24 hours on their website, they were debating whether the trees had been altered in the picture for her Mother's Day one that she put out. So look, yes, she made a mistake in doing those alterations to the picture. But I spoke to Kensington Palace that morning and said, look, how is she? And they said she's really upset and sad that she's caused all this trouble. All that she was trying to do is to put out a lovely picture for Mother's Day of her kids that she thought the public would enjoy. And you know what it's like. You've got 3 kids trying to get them to, you've got 3 kids, Stig, I think, haven't you? Trying to get them all to look the same way for a picture and smile is pretty difficult.
Yeah. Meghan has 2 kids and Meghan is a working mom. She has 2 kids, but Meghan doesn't get any sympathy. Nobody worries about Meghan. Meghan can take care of herself, right? Teflon, what is it? Teflon, or what did they call her? Good old Meghan. She could take care of herself. But Kate, we have to handle her with a very light touch. She's not a public figure, but she enjoys the benefit of the public money.
So I can see that. And of course, once she realised she'd made a mistake, she apologised.
But it was literally the worst thing, because it doesn't matter. The actual editing doesn't seem to strike me as mattering very much. But in a world of conspiracy, and you know this, that I'm sure, as editor of The Sun, how many of people you know text you and say, what's really going on with Kate and William?
Bingo. 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 What's really going on with William and Kate? Bingo.
What's the truth about it?
Off the scale.
And it does exist, doesn't it? This whole culture, and it's not necessarily just wackos in their basements. It's I include my wife in this. I know lots of people who just genuinely are obsessed with that story, and so the worst thing they could have done was screw up a picture. Because once people believe in conspiracies, and something like that happens, it reinforces the conspiracy, whatever she then says.
Absolutely. That's why it was a terrible mistake that was made. Now, I think they made it innocently. I think William took the picture in good faith. She wanted it to look good and sent it over without realising that you couldn't really do that. So it was a mistake. Should Kensington Palace's press people have protected her from that? I mean, if I were them, of course they should, but if I were them and I got sent a picture from the future king, I would assume it was fine. So I can see how mistakes were made. I mean, there was another sort of...
Just like she received an article from that big bison head Jeremy Clarkson, did she assume that was okay when she approved of an article where he said all those terrible things that he wanted to do with Meghan, parading her through the streets and people, that's the same editor, Victoria Newton, the same editor.
A point I wanted to make really is that I've met William quite a few times now, various events and things, and I know how deeply he feels about protecting that young family, and especially his wife and children. He had a difficult upbringing himself with a family that was disjointed, and he's determined to have a really, really private life for his own children. He's really close to them. They always make sure they're home for bath time, bedtime. She cooks most of the meals. I mean, it's very different to the life.
She cooks most of the meals. She cooks most of the meals. How does she know that Kate cooks most of the meals? How is that possible? She cooks most of the meals. They're always there at bath time. And didn't we just recently get the idea once again that Kate and William were not under the same roof during her convalescence?
He had growing up, and that's why he's so fiercely protective. And the nonsense that's been written that the marriage must be in trouble because she took her wedding rings off. I mean, have you seen the size of that rock? Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine she wears that ring most of the time at home, but I just thought that was really unfair and it felt a bit bullying, and that's why I thought we had to make a stand, and I'm glad it's had an impact.
Yeah.
She spent 10 years trying to get that rock. 10 years. Now, after going through all of that, I am not convinced that she took that ring off because it's so heavy. I'm convinced that she didn't take that ring off because it was going through maintenance or anything like. I'm convinced that she took it off because the fire has burned out. There is no love there anymore. Whatever affection they shared, that probably ended long before Louis was born. But anyway.
It's interesting I thought, as was known, heard me say this before, I thought she shouldn't have had to apologise on her own. I thought he took the damn picture. Kensington Palace released it. I know, I suppose it hates me saying it.
It's like day 5 of this theory.
Why did you have to apologise? He should.
Yeah, it could have come from both of them.
And
yeah.
I just finally then, are you surprised? This is a slick operation. You've been reporting on this slick operation forever. And this looks like they've lost that slickness, haven't they?
Well, they will have a bit of trouble in terms...
A staff of over 60 people. A staff of 60 people. Everyone from the courtiers driver, cook, clean, all of that. They have a staff of 60 people. If you are flying around in helicopters, trust me, you are not rushing home to cook a meal. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I will not believe it, especially someone who doesn't even seem that interested in eating. God help her. I just don't see her as being that big on cooking. It just doesn't fit. It's disjointed, to borrow a word from Victoria Newton. Disjointed. I just don't believe it.
People might say, well, can we trust everything they say in future? So that is an issue for them. But I think there are things that they can do to mitigate that. I mean, let's see what he says. He's quite good at making little jokes here and there, William. So maybe that's how he does do that in future at an event. Maybe not today at the Diana event he's going to later on. But and maybe they'll invite official photographers in to take their pictures next time. That's what I would do if I were them.
That's probably good advice, Victoria.
No, they're not going to invite photographers. They're going to invite a camera crew. They are going to invite a professional camera crew. That's what they do now. I'm surprised that a photo was taken by either one of them because they use camera crews.
Great to speak to you. Thank you for joining us. That's Victoria Newton, the editor of The Sun.
Let me tell you, the second most read story on the Times website and app this morning is another royal story. Kate Mansi writes.
Okay, so there you go. Victoria Newton digging in to help Kate Middleton. She's coming to Kate's rescue. William wouldn't do it, but Victoria Newton did. Lay off Kate. I wonder what would happen if there was an article that started off with lay off Meghan. What kind of world would it be if Meghan got even a fraction of the support? I spoke to Kensington Palace that morning. They said she's really upset and sad that she's caused all this trouble. I bet she didn't feel that way when she had Meghan in tears over her wedding. I bet she didn't feel bad about Meghan that morning of the wedding when she decided that she would wear a white dress. White. She wore a white dress, and I have the receipts. She wore a white dress. It was not yellow. There was a hue of yellow on the hat, but the dress was white. Kate wore a white dress on Meghan's wedding day. And the press made no mention of it. They spoke more about Meghan choosing to wear white than Kate wearing white. The Sun apology doesn't mention Meghan Markle by name, so the person it violently racialized and dehumanized doesn't receive front page apology from Jeremy Clarkson's column. He keeps column and Victoria Newton keeps job as editor. This is institutional gaslighting on an epic level. And that is from, of course, Dr. Shola. That is the same Victoria Newton that was supposed to sign off on Jeremy Clarkson's article. Obviously, she didn't take a look at it, or she looked at it and had a good laugh and said send and sent it right to publishing. This is Victoria Newton. She is the editor of The Sun. She gave a nod to the horrific piece written by Jeremy Clarkson to be published this morning. She appeared on BBC what is it, Laura, Kay? When I say influential women enable misogyny, I ain't making it up. In other words, gatekeeper. Those women who portray themselves as a feminist, they are actually gatekeepers for the far right. They are gatekeepers for the far right. Working class, you know, underpaid working class women, they are not considered a whole individual human being by the likes of these people. They take the side of misogyny. They take the side of the strong patriarchal system that has actually held women back, held minorities back, and held back just about anyone who is not a white man with money. That is the top of the pyramid in the Western world. A rich white man. You are at the top of the pyramid. And there to make sure that you never lose your way, you have someone like a Victoria Newton or Camilla Tominey and just about anyone else who is a journalist from those tabloids over there. Those are the people that make sure that the wealthy white man stays at the top. It's the same thing there. It's the same thing here. Gatekeeper. She is a gatekeeper. A hound from hell. A gatekeeper. Oh, by the way, Victoria Newton, I was with Charles on his last working day as the Prince of Wales. He hosted me with typical generosity. Victoria Newton, publisher of The Sun, was with Charles the last day before his mother died. She just happened to be there. You knew Queen Elizabeth was near death. I knew Queen Elizabeth was near death. I guess the only people that didn't know was Charles, Camilla, Victoria Newton, Jenna Bush, and anyone else who was in contact with Charles, who was in his presence before his mother died. None of those people thought that he would be better off at Balmoral Castle with that frightfully frail looking woman that greeted Liz Truss. Right? A woman who could barely walk without assistance. A woman who was pretty much resigned to a wheelchair and in a great deal of pain from bone cancer. Where was Charles? Having dinner with Victoria Newton. And then from there, setting up for an interview with Jenna Bush for American television. That is what was so important while his mother was on her way out of here. That is how 70 years reign from Elizabeth II. That's how it ended, was her son was setting up for an interview. And then, of course, by the time he got there, when he saw that she was still alive, what did he do? He went foraging for mushrooms. You cannot face your mother's passing without fresh foraged mushrooms. I know I couldn't. Damn, that's a weird family. Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering what's on the phone, Victoria Newton is sharing an image of George, Kate, Louis, Willie and Charlotte. The same picture you see at the bottom, that's the same picture that's on her phone. That's the very important thing that was taking place as Queen Elizabeth was, taking her last breath or last breaths. He was setting up for dinner and then setting up for an interview with Jenna Bush with his usual generosity from taxpayers' money. The Sun editor-in-chief Victoria Newton wrote suspicious stories for more than one Fleet Street paper. She's been around for a while, you guys. I don't even know how old she is, but she's been around for a while. And she has definitely had an impact on the media landscape. So I have just one more soundbite to play for you. And then I'm going to close with something a little less awful. So stay with me for a second here. Oh my goodness, how do I get to that? Is that the one that's hard to find? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Let me try this though. Let me try it. Oh, is this thing? Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
Or did I do that already? Oh, let me see. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. That's the wrong one. That's what it is. It's the wrong one. Okay, bear with me, you guys. Bear with me. I'm getting there. Hold your horses. Oh no. Where the hell is that? Wait a minute. I don't know where I put it. No, certainly not that. Okay, you know what? Maybe I don't have it anymore. Or maybe I forgot to save it. Maybe that's what it is. Oh yeah, I think I screwed up here. Let me see. Well, I tell you, things were going way too well for a stretch there, wasn't it? Oh, okay. It's coming up. But if this is taking too long, feel free to say goodnight. I won't keep you because I am totally lost at this point. I had it and then I lost it. Unless
maybe not today at the Diana event.
Sun.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, that's not it. Okay, folks, I can't find it. I don't know what the heck I did with it. So I guess I will just go ahead and do that last thing that I have, and then we'll call it a night. I totally lost it. Oh, I hate when I do that. But I did. I totally misplaced it. Okay, well, we'll go on to something else. It was this, but it was something else. It was BBC, and I don't remember where I saw it. That's the thing. I don't remember where I saw it. And I'm checking my history. I don't see it. Oh, fudge. Pardon my language. But it was so cool because it was Victoria Newton not really being called out, but I would just say not in a very comfortable position either. Oh, wait. How the hell did I lose that? Oh, okay. I got it, you guys. I got it. Worry not. I got it. Okay, here we go.
I don't think it's fair to say that what we're seeing playing out on the streets now is a result of the mainstream media's coverage.
What do you say to people who are tracing a direct line from material you and other media have published to where we are now? So in 2015, when Katie Hopkins had a column in The Sun, she likened migrants to cockroaches. In 2017, Trevor Kavanagh, who used to be your political editor, used the phrase the Muslim problem in your paper. Would you allow such comments to be published now in The Sun?
Look, to be clear, I've been editor since 2020, so that's before my time. You will not find anything like those things in the newspapers that I have edited. However, I don't think it's fair to say that what we're seeing playing out on the streets now is a result of the mainstream media's coverage. I think you need to look to social media and disgusting characters like Tommy Robinson.
And The Sun, I suppose, was always the kind of voice of the person on the street. That's how we saw it. I wonder if you feel you still are. I mean, the critique of the legacy media, I suppose, applies to you as much as anybody else, that a big section of society now gets their information from social media, not from the likes of you or the BBC.
Absolutely. I mean, the BBC can't quite decide whether we're really powerful or not powerful at all anymore, as we talked about, Katie, in the run-up to the election. Look, I still think newspapers are at the heart of much of the conversation in the UK. You've seen that during election times. Often TV take their lead from newspapers. So they certainly still have a role to play. And our online reach is huge as well. I don't think it's fair to say that what we're seeing playing out on the streets now is a result of the mainstream.
Okay. Now, as you see that, or as you listen to it, if you didn't know better, you would think that Victoria Newton was some type of reformist, that she changed the trajectory of the Sun newspaper after her arrival, right? That they were capable of some pretty crappy journalism before she showed up, but you won't find that kind of thing since she's been there. If that is the case, then how do you explain Jeremy Clarkson? If that is true, how do you explain the whole thing with Jeremy Clarkson? That was her paper. So yes, maybe Jeremy Clarkson didn't compare migrants to cockroaches, or maybe he didn't use that language like the Third Reich. You know how they said they had a certain problem with a certain group of people, right? And that there was a Arab problem in Britain. Now those incendiary words were designed to create apathy and hostility toward a certain group of people. Um, I know it. Anyone who's ever studied history know where that comes from. But I think in equal measure, if a woman of color can be depicted in a scene in a newspaper column where she is paraded through the streets, which is basically a lynching. Her newspaper promoted a lynching. Am I wrong about that? I would say that that was a lynching. That was a mob action. It seemed as though her paper was proposing a mob action against a woman of color. And of course, as life goes, if you will do it to one woman of color, you would do it to any woman of color. Just like the famous phrase from the Holocaust, anyone who would burn books, etc., etc. Right? It all goes together. So the Sun, the Times, the Mirror, the Express, and of course, the big offender, the Daily Mail, all of those papers, they have participated in the dehumanization of a lot of people. So I don't know that I would necessarily believe. Actually, I just know I don't believe Victoria Newton. As I said, she's a gatekeeper. Victoria Newton has an agenda, and that agenda is to uplift and to create spaces that are free of people that look like me, and that those spaces and, of course, positions of power and authority, I believe her agenda is to make sure that those spaces are reserved for a nice English rose or whatever. But yeah, she wants a world where, let's say, a Jeremy Clarkson can say and do as he please, and that someone like Professor Jason would suffer the consequences for not knowing his place. So anyway, that's what I think of Victoria Newton. I am not a fan of hers. I think she is an awful, awful individual. And as I said, the ultimate gatekeeper. Now, an organization of Black aerospace professionals announced 2026 annual conference celebrating 50 years of legacy, leadership, and opportunity. And I think this is a timely thing to share with you because, well, they're pilots. They're pilots, or they're training to be pilots. These are some 3,000 men and women who are part of air transportation, civil aviation. I didn't know that there was that many. But yeah, those are pilots and pilots in training. That is an awesome sight. When I think about Bessie Coleman trying to become a pilot back in the Jim Crow era when she wanted to be a pilot, and people literally laughed at her because a black woman wanted to do something that most white men would probably never do, and that is to be a pilot. So she tried to learn how to fly in the United States, and she was laughed at. And then when she went to France, where so many black people were thriving during the jazz era, she thought, surely I could do better over here. So she learned to speak French so that she can become a pilot. Before any of this, she was a manicurist. She were doing nails. She was at a salon doing nails. But she got excited about aviation and decided she wanted to be a pilot. Bessie Coleman. From Chicago, by the way. And anyway, eventually, when the French saw that she was serious, she became the first woman to have an international pilot's license. And now fast forward to 2026 and take a look at that awesome sight there. We're thrilled to welcome you to Chicago, Illinois, August 12th through the 14th, 2026, for the OBAP's landmark 50th annual conference. Over 3 unforgettable days and 3 fun-filled nights, you'll reconnect with friends and colleagues, renew your commitment to personal and professional growth, and celebrate our organization's legacy and mission, surrounded by a supportive community that feels like family. You'll restore your energy and be inspired as we honor the past, embrace the present, and shape the future of aerospace together. Now, I have a couple of little clips to share with you. Of this incredible, awesome site. By the way, they picked a great time to be in Chicago because Saturday and Sunday, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, is the Air and Water Show, one of the oldest free air shows in the world. Okay, ready for it? Here we go. Okay, now this does have music in the background, and you know that's not allowed. So I am going to have to make sure that I, can't have music in the background. I'm sorry. Glad I caught that. Gotta testify. Okay, there we go. Look at that. What did that say? Let me go back there. Less than 4% of U.S. commercial pilots are black. So less than 4% of the pilots are black. Must be a lot of pilots then. Representation matters. What you see today inspires tomorrow. This is what representation looks like. Isn't that an awesome sight? So you see, even though I have my feelings about the direction of the United States, the only place where a picture like this is possible, you'd have to be in Africa. Outside of Africa, where would you see this many black people in aerospace? There's 200 million people in Brazil, and the majority of them are black. So let's say there's 100 million black people in Brazil or have some black ancestry. And even in Brazil, there's more black people in Brazil than there are in the United States. And you can't find a picture like this. You can't find a picture like this in Brazil. So whatever you think of the United States, we still have a lot of work to do, but I don't know any place else where this would be possible unless you were in Africa. Okay, I got one more video, and then we're going to say goodnight. I hope this ain't got no music in it.
Room filled with excellence. Nothing but excellence.
Isn't that something? 3,000 African Americans in the aerospace industry all met up at the McCormick Place in Chicago. Ain't that something? Now that makes me incredibly proud. That makes me very proud. So there you go, you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope nobody accuses them of being a DEI or whatever. That like any other working professional, they've done the work to be there. But as they become increasingly successful, you know, at some point, there's going to be some person throwing accusations around. But do not be discouraged by that. Nobody flies a plane without those kind of qualifications. There's so many redundancies in civil aviation. Elaine Parker, thank you so much for being here. Well, good night, everyone. Love you guys, or good morning. See you next time.